You know why the Vatican got involved with Jamila? Do you want to know really why? Because she was intel, heightened intel before you smashed her head on those lines. And they could have kept her body there. When I came back as a replacement child tripod, you called me every name under the sun in Fresno Briscoe. At the beginning of the Crawleys, I was stronger, but now I'm really a candle and wind with the Saswipe 221. Having said that, considering that there are buildings around the capital cities that are void, you see, you want to hear religion while I'm talking to you about intel. The Vatican only gets interested in the sciences if the sciences have any space in them. And you know that about the Vatican. You know that. That's what the Vatican specializes in, is science of space. So when they blessed her, said to her, you see, when intel tells you that Jamila did something, you don't believe it. If BBC and Channel 4 tells you that Jamila did something, you don't believe it. If Messaggero tells you, you don't believe it. If the UN tells you, doesn't believe it. If the inner circles in Woolwich tell you, you don't believe it. In other words, the social security number DELF that had its head smashed in on the ghost lines when it was actually intel and became me, the replacement child, shows what you are. This Disney version of me. Now, genetically grafting Disneyland or making even Ubermensch out of that girl in Western Europe, saying our national treasures are your phone trash on the ghost lines, old news on the news, thank you, DELF, is called Celebra. When the Vatican says you did something fucked up big, and it wasn't science, as we know that, and you're dead, and the Americans are Satanists, and they're sick fuck, whores and assholes to your face. You know, when you grow up with that, and you're born in the United Nations in Rome, at the age of 5, and you go to genetic freak schools in the UN, you're not going to say much. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not cheap-ass whores like the US. There's a Scott Glenn film to stay around for retirements. For Disneyland. So, what happened, and considering they had a fixation with that girl, what you're going to change on the coastlines is nada. You're going to keep a void. Together with the mausoleum of Jamila. And her empty, beautiful buildings. Call me Bin Laden again, I'll fucking kill your ass. I have my own crumbs, you know. After you smash my head in on your coastlines, Satanists. So, going back to Western Europe, and the Ghost Celebra of 221 DELF Plumbing Time. Considering that I can't change it, and nobody can change what happened on the coastlines, the mausoleum, I can't do much. US, on the coastlines. Nobody can. Except this fixation was the Platinum House, and that fixation was the space breaks, which means either they continued without me, they kept the void, or they had the Platinum House with her, the metros and so forth. That would be connected those globals. That's what we call intelligence. And because I'm not intelligent, I don't take any pretenses. That's for sure. I've got to graduate in 15 high school. By 15, I would have had 2 honors degrees from Woolwich by the age of 20. Bachelor's. A master's at 9 in 9 month honors. Also from Woolwich, Greenwich Mean Time, stupid times, useless fucking degrees, swipes. After which I would have even had an MPhil. That I would have done a PhD thesis in 5 days in April of 2011. Yeah, we got it. For both parents. And I wouldn't have been able to finish the Viva Voce radio. As a defense of biological enhancements of cementation. You know, bacteria and all. Wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to, as a creamed pool. I wasn't a geneticist. In fact, we cloned that shit in two days over the weekend. No, Jamila was doing other projects. Yeah. In Woolwich, they have Iranians and Syrians, but they also have Americans. Like in Rome, And they lump the Iranians and the Syrians together with the Americans in Woolwich, in Greenwich, 7 campuses since I was 15 years old, and in the United Nations in Rome, and in the high school in Rome. Why? Because if you're going to see the promised land on those lines, they're going to become your best friends. You know, when they say, ride the ass of Bruno, the donkey. In other words, if you smash that girl's head in on those lines, and I come back like this, till no nails, then that's what you get. I'm not really me. The only thing I have in common with the original Jamila is the eyebrows. Retards. Okay. So when they said, with all the blessings of the Opus Dei and the Brits and the Hague and the Bureau de Veritas of Dirk and Van Damme and the Russians and the Muslims, that I was a phenomenon and you smash my head on the coastlines, they had said if the little Disneyland shows up in the US and they continue, which they did with the psychopaths and haters, we're going to show to the Americans that they are fucking retarded. And because that shit anyway went down ages ago, and I can't change the shit if you pay me in cash, and those buildings are hers, then you are paying. The only reason the Vatican would have got involved would have been for the space breaks and the science stuff that they always liked. Okay? Now, Jamila had her head bashed in on the coastlines. You have on her Crawleys, towards the middle end of that social security number 221, attacked her on levels that are the Disneyland version of me, pretty much as a scumbag with the psychos at Dolores Shelter. That's why the Roman tribunal kicked in. It kicked in billions of dollars for your psychos, this, that, psychos, stalkers, and everything else. Why? Because when you lose that kind of intel, and you keep losing it, because as they say, the high school cliche, better to lose with the most intelligent forever and ever than to win with the retarded, stupid assholes. It's a high school cliche only, and you know I don't like cliches. In fact, I don't like having the school of the 40s whatsoever. Anyway, considering that I'm Disneyland, which is not something I like, or endorse, or whatever you want to prefer to call me, I also know that there are crumbs of that girl or Rolex, which we call the blues and the pink in high school. Now, consider in the genetic freak schools in the UN, the Nobels and Novas. The problem is that that's after you smashed my original head in on the coastlines and those beautiful buildings at La Sapienza, Knowledge, and other universities are empty in space sciences. In other words, I don't have pretenses. I'm not going to constantly defend myself with 221, with you whores and assholes and stalkers and haters and jealous ex-white girls following me in Fresno and Frisco. Because either you are crazy, either you're on drugs. Not that I drug one at the age of 50. Or for example, to one lap, and you're speaking to shut up. After 10 years of Crawleys, little Crawleys, and all the rest for the Baron between those guys. You are disgusting. Finish. Now, the reason they brought me back was to see what type of people you are in the US. So when they said that the Americans are fucking filth bags, they were saying the truth. Because if a girl did those things and you smashed her head on the coastlines and those guys have the platinum hairs with her, what are you going to change? The void of losses of intel on the coastlines where that girl used to work, the line work around the world, connected those kebabs? Or are you just going to change your attitude and keep your cycles and bitches and others away from me? And whores. They have boyfriends too. But this, for you to pick on this one, the Disney version, is fun. For them, this is billions of dollars for the Roman tribunal, which already happened. Shit has. US. Now you know what country you live in. Alright, this is it. This is what they show. So that's why there's the Scott Glenn film. And the Scott Glenn film simply states, the girl was the best at what she was doing. She was one of the few in the world who had that. She had her head smashed on your coastlines, and we are giving her every fucking blessing on the planet. The Americans on the coastlines, whatever they choose to be, psychos, not psychos, or the ones from Fresno, they're from Fresno. Federal prisoners in Los Angeles. I'm a stalker, you go ahead at Dolores Shelter. It's not a question of being antisocial from my side on retirement. I don't have a life in Fresno. I hang out only with the intel that goes there, and the other agents that go there from outside, and abroad, and the CIA is there, and other CIA and FBI that comes to visit. Otherwise, they don't have a social life at present because you're animals. Literally. And that's why the parents are retired. Well, I used to be on the coastlines. Do you understand that? So I can do all the flyings and all the runnings. I can be the best at what I do. I had my head bashed in on the coastlines. Irregardless of the storyline, of course, celebre 2-1. The US didn't care for the loss of intel. The problem was the highly intelligent people in Western Europe and Italy and England and even from my countries, Russia, Saudi Arabia, in my blood, retired, sided with me. In Poland, the brother of the mother was director of sciences at Warsaw University for over 8 years. And we know the history of Poland, so don't even start. It's dark. In Egypt, the same as Algeria. Papa is Arab, Saudi, Turk. Mama is Russian. In other words, there's a lot of Russians mixed in Eastern Bloc, and there's a lot of Arabs that are mixed with Turks. It's normal. It's not unusual in those countries. I was born in Italy and Rome in stupid times, and that's it. So there was a lot of flyings of that girl, 92, 92 and above, depending on the parents. A lot of runnings of that girl, 85, 85, and now there is the dead Crawleys. The little Crawleys of this one. Peachy. Okay. Or what they call the tripod child. Now listen, considering that those guys in the CIA knew that there were going to be those losses in the US, the CIA fell with her because she used to be an intel, which would explain the platinum hairs of the CIA which connected those cabals on the coastlines. But because you are bitches in the US, or whores, or whatever you want to call it, you started stalking her, me, 2-1, which wasn't an extra addition that we didn't need. And because you're psychos and bitches and jealous, all that, the Harry Potter gossip that happened on my Crawleys for the parents and little Crawleys out of Fresno, between those countries for the parents, not connected those cabals, for myself, and all the other Harry Potter gossip that started in Rome before even retirement, during retirement, and after, with the masses, is atrocious. About your shits in Fresno and Frisco. Atrocious. And that's just the gossip, Harry Potter gossip. So you have no fucking clue what's going to happen, my dears. Just for Disney. For your moment of glory of bitchiness. The intelligence that was lost on the coastlines was big. 2-1. And it was historic. And if you don't understand Delph Plum Time, or the wormhole to do a worm, or the smashed in head on the coastlines, it's your problem. I can't anymore. It's killing my head. That. Alright? That's not the parents. So, abusing me doesn't go very far because I wasn't looking for it. If you force yourself on someone like me on purpose, during forced to high school, those guys can prepare The Hague for me with the empty building, showing that that girl came back just for that for Connected Dos Globals. It was something big and it was lost, and they continue with the plan has Connected Dos Globals. You could speak about, which is the same like Bureau de Veritas. You couldn't speak about Roman Tribunal as extras. The Roman Tribunal would be your bitches and your stalkers on the literal Crawleys of the girl out of Fresno, the parents. Now, considering that you don't understand that I cannot change the platinum has, because the girl was a leader in space science and she was a leader in science and tech. But when you bashed her head in on the coastlines, it went Mermaid, it went Titanic, but that's all news on the news. Around the world's Connected Dos Globals. Those are the platinum has. Now, if you want to change that shit, you go ahead. I'm right out of that shit. I'll connect with those globals. Don't ask me to reopen the beautiful shit. La Sapienza has been empty, science and tech, ever since that girl died. And because I don't have pretenses, I look at it as a journalist and literature elevation. If that's already had his head bashed in and that was new shit, that's empty. What do you want me to do? Reopen it magically? If I'm the tripod replacement child, Mademoiselle Indios, but Cool all the follies. That's why 2-1. Connect the dots, clubhouse. Now, when intelligence bring back a girl like that, the reason they do that is to say that something happened and it was important and there were losses. If they continue without me doing what they do on the coastlines and elsewhere, that's their business. Yeah. The reason you're insanely jealous of Jamila and you smashed her head in on the coastlines in Westgate, probably, I'm not going to speak about those bridges with those guys. I'm not. Because they saw it. On 92, 92 and above, it was too fast, but they saw it because there was many flies. It was on 85, 85, the runnings, the amount of runnings of that girl, which was still flies benefits. You could say runnings because she already knew she was going to her death, which is very weird in itself, because I told them in Western Europe, listen, I'm going to have my head, something real bad's going to happen over there. And they're like, yeah, well, there's the flies and the runners with you, there's the professors, in Woolwich, La Sapienza with the plum hairs. So the girl ended up with her head bashed in on the coastlines. I come up like this, and they go to cycles. So obviously this is called Celebra even in Tierhaufen with my enemies, the Nazi skins. So when your puny PhD brains get your heads out of your fucking particular corticobs and realize that that's lost and no amount of fucking billions or trillions is going to reopen it in your Hollywood minds, you don't understand what that is. You don't understand what space breaks are, the true ones. You do not understand what space science tech breaks are and new math. And you don't understand what tech breaks are. And I don't think you even understood the biomedical shit in Poland and the low labs that are empty. So when they say that to you, and they say, well, you can't have pretenses because, yes, you had your head bashed in, you're a replacement child. Please stay in Rome for retirements. They mean it. For the father and the mother to stay on retirements, for instance, it's much easier. Okay? They have the hanging benches of Lord Princess and erect, and more than that, defending them, is their location. It's the Mediterranean. Saudi Arabia is nearby, Arabia, Turk, Russia, Western Europe, Italy, England, Woolwich by extension, like a big extension of the inner circles. They will help. So the Scott Glenn film gives you a time frame for the Disney replacement child, 214, 214, 147. 147 will become 221. Okay? 221 is the amount of time you have to make a stay in Rome for retirements and geological rebirth. Now, considering that what's lost is lost and you can't get over that because you're insanely jealous and you don't understand the intel communities around the world. You don't understand the metros or the basements in the UN or other countries or in England or in Germany or in Russia inside your globals, 221 or the plum has. I cannot help you. I cannot go to the CIA and say to the CIA, hey CIA, why do you have plum mass with me when I connected those globals? What are they going to say to you? You had your head bashed in, you used to work with us. We have planned mass. And those bitches still think that they're the best. So yeah, we'll turn around, shit in your face just for them. Of course they can do what the fuck they want on those slides. It ain't changing. For you, it ain't changing. With all your PhDs. Unless you did all the flyings and all the runnings and all the crawlies of that girl. It ain't fucking connected those globals. It ain't fucking changing for you. With all your PhDs. Or your limousines. Delph 221. That's what Delph is. That's what Delphi is. Literally. So, when you smash that girl's head on the coastlines, they go to the Fourth Reich, their whole shit in California. Oh, mama. I can't stop the gossip around the capital cities in 80 countries and 25 states called Celebrity to One Disney. I can't. And they know they can't get that shit back. They know I'm technical perspective, I'm Roman, I'm not that girl. Only the eyebrows are the same of that girl, or the original. And you can screw yourselves to Kingdom Come in Frisco and Fresno. It won't change your life. Because it's already happened. Your bitchiness comes from who you are. The boys and men that you think you are in Fresno and Frisco? You're not. None of you flew like that girl. None of you ran like that girl. None of you had your head bashed in on a ghost like that girl. Now, to find a tripod child like me to replace Chippy Cha and then send in your fucking psychos and stalkers and bitches and jealousies and stuff and bitch ass this and bitch ass that to my face on 22122. It was already a close celeb when she had her head bashed in with a Hagen below the Veritas. Now it's not even a close celeb. Now they left it made a fucking royalty for your bitches and assholes in the US. You're sick. Sick. You don't have to show the US is sick that way. What was that girl famous for? What was she famous for before she was known for having her head bashed in on the bus lines? You're going to lie again to me or to the rest of the world with the 221? Endures. And there's intelligence behind that girl. Because even if you smashed her head in on the bus lines, we got exiled. Not so, but this is. So much for sideways, excuse me. So, that's why the intelligence community sometimes bring back people like me. I'll tell you that. You go call it a safety baby, call it what you want. And tanto, I'm the trained poodle in the house, and I'm not callous. So, all those pains that I had crawling out of Fresno for the father and then a mother, both at the same time, abroad and stuff like that, all that sickness of yours, that hate, I carried on my shoulders as Disney. It entered me, you understand? And whatever entered me, your hate, was shared with the rest of the world. Because they could see through me, the entire communities. They knew that I was the emotional punch bag. At the beginning of the number when I was stronger, to now, when I'm the candle in the wind. So when you wonder why there are buildings in Massachusetts or in ESSA or in NASA in the US and DC in Massachusetts that are empty, just like in La Sapienza in Rome or in Woolwich or in those countries, or some other biomeds, and they say to you that you are the space break, and you also did some biomeds because science, a brushstroke of science, you also did biochem. And you're still denying that. You call me Bin Laden, whatever you want near the end of the number, I don't care anymore. I don't care what you call me at the end of the number. What was important was the beginning for the father and the mother. But now, it's only 147 to 221 left. I really am a candle in the wind by now. I'm weak. I was fragile before, but now I'm not only fragile, I'm a candle in the wind. I am not going to be playing games with you and looking at your sick vitriol. We're suing you billions with the Roman tribunal. That's all news on the news too, darlings. What happened on the coastlines is all news. Loss of intel in your country is all news. You don't give a shit. You say presidents. Man, the fucking presidents don't know this shit. You idiot. So I'm just telling you kindly why this one came back like this. And why they say stay the fuck out of this country with the Roman tribe, with the Scott clan film. Papa and Mama did try to stay in Rome for retirements. Saudi Arabia, Cairo, Western Europe, even Tierhafen thinks it's a kind of, so forget it. England, by extension, London, the Italians, the UN, everybody. Laura Quintus, Nally Direct with the hanging benches for both parents. Everybody would gladly see them retire in Rome. While I, being Disneyland, is not much of a sacrifice by now to stay in Rome, and I'm not suicidal. And if there's any blues out there, some miraculously after smashing her head on in the coastline says there's still a hole in the wall. Miraculously. Big ass. Many. Thanks. Well, you're so thick as shit in Fresno that you can't even get to that. And you did what to my parents in Fresno? Never done. My father had an injection in his stomach at the age of almost 76. the lower part of his tummy. I was taken at 18 to Poland to Russia for the rule of law, cleanest record in the Eastern Bloc. Thank you, gentlemen. King Abbasid, who has 4 PhDs in NASA, put the Shemansky neighborhood. He was saying, darling, he had the baby. Don't try. They joke with me. There are those who joke with me, and people who are friends. There are those who genuinely help, even financially, to crawl, literal crawlies out of Fresno. And then there are those who are just disgusting humans in the US on purpose. But it won't change those buildings being empty. Not that girl. Nope. And because those children, the men in black children that they keep saying about me in St. George's High School, they don't, it's not that they're sitting there, look at my face, look at my teeth, look at me, look at me, they think of their family, first and foremost. They also think of their own lives. They have their head bashed in, August, as this comes back out, and you speak about particular corn cobs. Maybe we have to go back to kindergarten with you. And genuinely, in Frisco Fresno. Because the more you behave like that, the more they sue you with the Roman tribunal. It can be billions, it can be the government. Because of what the girl did. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come back. That's exactly what they said to me in Intel. And that's exactly what Opus Dei said to me, the Italians. You did something phenomenal. He didn't say phenomenal, he said something big. And they were saying it was in sciences. So if it is in sciences, if everyone's saying space sciences, breaks in sciences, breaks in space sciences, and that's the intel, and they're saying the same from the beginning to the end, I can't believe that. What am I, the replacement child? Connected those globals, the mother blanc has, you're crazy. Therefore, when the intel communities get to that point where they already drew the line in the sand ages ago around the world, for stupid times for 2 high schools or 3rd high school now, then you are what you are. You're not the best. It's obviously you're not the best on the ghost lines. And the fact that those guys did Mermaid with me ages ago, or Titanic, call it what you want, I can't change the planet. I can't change the guys falling. If the intelligence in the CIA, the intelligence in Woolwich, the intelligence in Rome, the intelligence in Russia, Arabia, and other places fell or has platinum hairs with me in the basements, I can't change that, globals. If you can, you're welcome. Get your fucking sorry ass to those buildings and do it yourself. Otherwise, shut the fuck up. Not that I have to go from the backside, front side of those buildings and go back out, connect to those globals. What about for the barracks? Oh no, that's from the backside. Actually, that's not even from the backside. Oh! So, the parents are born in pioneer camps beyond the capital cities. They are like North Piashits, something like that. Whether they're Arab, Saudi, Turk, Russian, Oriental, okay? Beyond the capital cities. They are directorates, as I said, D1, D2, D2s for 20 years, D1s for 20 years, of Austro TGY USA. So that's work. You respect work. You respect the hanging benches like Winston Anyway. I don't care for your shit here with Mike Langley at Dolores, who's only 18 years old or 20 years old, federal prison in LA from Fresno. It's not Mike Langley. Or Patricia Villa, who's a freaking, probably Jew. She's probably Mossad. She could be Algerian. The other one who's Yemeni, who's not from Mexico. They're all druggies. They're all psychos. They were raised and born in Fresno. They are federal prisoners. These are all federal prisoners. You have a history. That was high school, the Jodie Foster moment. They were looking at you and suing your fat ass, the government. With us like 2-1. From beginning to end on the literal crawlies. Because you followed me to San Francisco and you didn't need to. Your little fascination with abuse. And the more I said I was me, the more you pissed off. But if I said I'm not me, you got even more pissed off. Why? Because if I burn you down, that intel gets its head bashed in on the ghost lines and there's void, and those guys joined forces with her, and they were beautiful buildings around the world, it's too much for you to hear it. Correct? And if I tell you that I'm a replacement child and that there's blues out there, even if you smash my head in on the coastlines in Western Europe, because our national treasures around the world are your fucking trash on the coastlines, that pisses you off too, correct? And if the Italians and the British inner circles join forces with the original Jamila and give her all the fucking blessings on the planet, it means that you are the fucking Satanists, correct? Correct. And so you can't look at a replacement child. That's okay. Having said that, there's still crumbs of that girl that they call Ubermensch, which means that's a product of stupid times, the blues. They're not James Bonds. Why? Because the space sciences was new. And therefore, if it's new, if you do bring back something genetically from other agencies around the capital cities and the UN genetic freak schools, they're not genetic freaks. Saudi Arabia, Russia, Britain, inner circles, Britain. At the age of 15, were those guys with plum hairs in sciences, Martin Snowden, with the plum hairs. He will tell you that even if that girl had her head bashed in on the coastlines and those beautiful buildings are empty, just like BBC Chernobyl and Messaggero, which I kick cats, so then connected those globals, which I did, it means that that girl, if I came back like this, and pinky, there's also blues. Okay, so that's what I'm holding on to. I know that there's something behind that girl. Now, even if I saw them from a distance, they're not me. They're not the original Jamila, because the original Jamila had her head bashed in on your coastlines, as lying peacefully. Yeah, she is dead for some time, and she is residing on your coastlines with her head smashed in, with her head, teeth, and everything else. Okay, so this is an extremely unusual situation with the Scotland firm to stay out of your country. Considering that I am Disneyland, in comparison to what I used to be before, and you should stop comparing yourself to me, to the boys, to the coastlines, to the original Jamila, let alone to the hanging bitches of Lark Withers and Nally Rick, the parents. You fucking retards. You don't have parents like that. So, the parents are born in pioneer camps beyond the capital cities, known as Pieshets, pioneers at the early age and sports and everything, hired as D2s, later D1s, for 20 years, directorates of OSRO, TCY, USAID, Humanitarian Relief Services, dropping aid around the world. Now, Saudi Arabia, Cairo, Russia, Turk, the grandmother, the mother of Papa, the Italians, the UN, La Sapienza is the sciences, they also want to help. Woolwich, by extension, also wants to help. You and the hanging benches of Lark Winters and Nally Rick. So this happened in your country. All the flyings, all the runnings, and all the crawlies of the dead baby. And what happened with that? Those bridges that were shot up is on those lines. Me and those guys. Okay? So I come back as a relic, and you'll be sitting there sending me your cycles. Tell me what the girl was famous for, what she's known for, and why all those guys blessed her. And who the fuck is Lara Quintus? Who the fuck is Natalie Durant? What is the Supreme Court in DC land defending the parents? What is Brussels, the rule of law defending the parents? So many flyings, 92, 92 and above of the original Jamila. So many runnings, 85, 85 of the original Jamila. And so many crawlies of me. Literal crawlies. So, do me a favor. I realize that you want to compare yourselves, but you cannot compare yourselves to space breakers, and you cannot compare yourselves to tech breakers. Now, if that is lost on the coastlines, I'm not surprised the CIA has the plan has with me, you retarded animal. Do you understand that? Crumbs. Keep your bitches and your cycles, your assholes, away from me, or we will sue you even more with the Roman tribunal, regardless of how much you hurt me. With the parents, and with me, even as Disneyland. Now, the eyebrows is the only thing that I have in common with the original Jamila. So, I'm going to tell you again. It's called Glenfilm to stay in Rome for retirements. You only have 147 to 221 to make that happen. If I don't say anything, better. I think if you could. If I say Opus Dei, what happens? I feel good inside. In a world where you cannot find God by yourself, but you need to go to church or a mosque or synagogue, tells me you're not people, you're animals. And hypocrites at that. If you cannot find your own selves in this world, you're nobody. If Disneyland managed to connect the dots with the most vicious assholes the planet has in 80 countries and 25 states, and I'm 50 years old now, plus, if you can call that a plus, so many flying rallies, by now, Crawleys and little Crawleys out of Fresno for the parents between those agencies on their retirements that many times, and I only have 147 to 221 left to tell you to stay on roll for retirements. That should already happen. And you should already have fucking bombed Fresno's drags, not space bombed them. SOB to SB. And I can tell you another thing about this. The losses will not come back on those lines, and they were big losses. And that they made them bigger, what the plan has, is up to the CIA and not up to me. And I think you're retarded. I don't think you're patriots. I think you are foreign in Fresno and Frisco, including the psychos. I think you think the US government is stupid. But not only are we making money with the Roman tribunal for me alone in asswipe Disneyland, but we know exactly who you are. Not only in the federal prison in LA from Fresno, but every single one of you. It's not going to make your lives better. It's still going to do something else, isn't it? California. Now, considering that I seem to be this damsel in distress, could you please stay out of this country? So the guys who lost that shit on the Ghost Lines know it. And they've known it ever since that girl, her had her head bashed in on the Ghost Lines. You couldn't hush it up because you knew I was going to come back with it 2-1. You also knew about Connect the Dots Globals ages ago, and you knew that she ain't changing for anybody. With all the little PhDs and limousines. Sorry I lived and sorry I died. Phenomenals. Roman. They call me Roman by now. Colloquially speaking around the capital city. You know what? No sacrifice to stay in row for retirement, but now it's called landfill. And I'm looking at them like, what a bunch of ass. Okay, I agree. I fucking agree. So this is the situation in a nutshell. So, I'm 50 years old. If I manage to get back to Rome, good. Or London or whatever. Don't sound exactly we already know what happened with that Ukrainian here and there. For Fresno, with the hanging benches of Lara Quintas and Ali Rick, the many flies, the many runnings, and the many crawlies of the car, you're going to pay in Fresno, whether you believe it or not. And it's going to include your accomplices. It's going to include your girlfriends who were the nurses there. It's going to include all of you who are involved in this directly or indirectly, because I consider you accomplices. And when you understand what the intelligence community does with the hanging benches of Lara Quintas and Ali Direct, with that many flyings and that many runnings, and then that many dead crawlies, literal crawlies of the child, dead, you see what I'm saying? Then you will understand why the US loses intel on the Ghost Lines, and you will understand it can be the best with all the flies and all the runnings, something, and then sideways, okay? De traverso. As for you, this is my advice to people, even if I am the Disneyland version of myself after what they did to the head of that girl. in intelligence in the US called Celebra around the world still today, the little nails. I would hope that you learn something in the US, because that intelligence is not going to come back to you with the plum has. It's going to stay that way, void. And if they decide to void her, that's how it works in Intel when you lose big swaths of Intel. For the parents, and don't say to me you didn't see it coming in the US, because every motherfucker on the planet saw it coming abroad. So don't even fucking say, yeah, in the East Coast, yes, okay, yes. Okay, thanks. Of course they're blaming the US. They are blaming you in Fresno correctly, because that's who started it, and that's who you are. Your intelligence in Fresno. And it is not the one you claim it is. And I can tell you that, even if I'm a degenerate version of that girl, as a trained poodle. If you still don't understand how this works, I don't care. But if you have parents like mine, who were born in pioneer camps beyond the capital cities, pioneer champions as children, who are directorates D1s for humanitarian relief services, and you are a replacement child who used to break space and tech and sciences and have her head bashed in on California's coastlines 2-1, then even if I am Disneyland version of myself by now, candle in the wind, I will tell it to your fucking face, whether you like it or you don't like it. USA. Goodbye.